Welcome, everyone. Welcome to a reading of Norm Levine and Peggy Aylsworth in celebration of their new books, Norm's Now and Then Some and Peggy's Ever After. Both books will be available for purchase after the reading, and with a small bribe, I'm sure they will sign them for you. So I look forward every week to the kerplunk in my inbox of another of Norm's blogs. To use a metaphor from one of his latest blogs, he takes water and then brings in all sorts of tributaries to elucidate his topic, gently chides his readers, and often links the subject to a childhood memory. I can't say I always get his references, especially when they refer to figures from the 1930s or 1940s, or to his beloved baseball, but I'm in for the game. One of the delights every week is to see where a topic will take him. In the piece Passages, he takes us from Queens to Los Angeles in one sentence, and then muses along lanes, boulevards, and avenues, even explaining the derivation of the words. We often see Norm trying to figure something out and taking us along, as when he says, quote, "I live in the intersection of two avenues, and I know of nothing they've done to deserve the title." I'm not sure we deserve Norm either, but we sure are lucky to have him. Norm Levine.
Okay. Thank you, Carol, so much. I was always wondering what I do in my blogs, and now that you've told me. And thank you especially to Judy Raffle for making this room available. It's real cozy. We got some cushy chairs here. It might be a good chance to catch up in your sleep while I'm reading. And I thank you all for coming.
I think you're not using the mic.
Really? Okay. Okay.
Point to you. There you go.
Whoa. Does it bite?
Yeah.
So, I want to welcome all you blog and poetry lovers and lovers of blog and poetry lovers. I'm often asked what I do in my blogs, or what I write about, and I don't know. I like to think that my best blogs are kind of like my shirt. They're a little bit drunk, and they sort of make their way down the page, and hopefully they end up in a different place than I start. However, there are certain categories which I notice that I write about. Memories, certainly, one thing. The older you get, the more of them we have. And sports, movies, politics, Peggy. And I think the largest area is just the miscellany of one blending into the other. So, I guess I'll start in. I get a little nervous reading the first blog, so I thought I'd start with the second. So this one started out as sort of an anti-memory blog, but it didn't take long before I got caught up in memories again. So it's called More Memories Than Plans. Nostalgia had a bad name in literary circles. It has been relegated to the basement in the ivory tower. Yet not as bad as in the 17th century, when it was considered a pathology serious enough to send a mercenary home for treatment or a sailor to get a pass back to port. Homesickness was regarded as a subset of melancholia. Try getting your HMO to pay for that today. In any case, nostalgia is what we old folks do at a typical lunch with friends after the obligatory organ recital. Even if we don't start traveling down memory lane, our complaints about this newfangled world and the degraded state of things is an implicit reference to those good old days. For many of us, The past looms not only vast but present. 1941 may be more vivid than last Thursday. Our own present history can and should not be dismissed in the human shredder. It's only when those memories are romanticized that it falls into nostalgia. Mark Twain said that as he got older, he not only started to forget things, but also remembered events that never happened. So nostalgia tends to conflate and polish the shards into jewels of past glories, all of which leads me to get nostalgic about old radio. We all had our favorite programs, which kept our rapt attention and loyalty, never missing a single episode. My friend Fred recently told me how a 15-minute radio show may have saved his life. He never complained when feeling ill, so his parents were appropriately alarmed when he announced that he wasn't going to listen to the Lone Ranger one night. They called the doctor, who rushed him to the hospital for an emergency appendectomy. Radio left much to the imagination. We conjured movies out of voices, suspended our disbelief when the whole world tumbled out of Fibber McGee's hall closet week after week. In fact, we waited for it, along with Mr. Kitzel, Senator Claghorn, and Archie, the manager, to announce that Duffy ain't here. The fulfilled anticipation became our reliable clock and a measure of a predictable universe. If they held a beauty pageant on radio, we would imagine the contestants. We even presumed that Edgar Bergen's mouth never moved when he became Charlie McCarthy. We were astonished at the quick minds of the panel on Information Please and celebrated the precocity of the quiz kids. We honored smarts back then. Paradoxically, with our Googling glut of information today, we mock intellectuals and elect morons. It may be the 7th inning of life or the 9th, but we still have a few plans and hopes. One would be to revisit our past to see where we went wrong and how we ended up in this sorry place. If it's innocence we lost, we must have traded it for more jaded eyes. Is it nostalgia that leads me here with its rosy lenses? I think not. Resistance, as we are to looking backwards, we are not well served to ignore the values and the static of old radio, even as they are encrusted with their own illusions and folly. The second piece is also a memory, a little more serious, called The Scale. In those days there was a scale, a mortar and pestle, an ointment slab, and always a torsion-balanced scale. A drugstore was unimaginable without it, like a barber without scissors or a shoemaker without nails in his mouth smelling from glue. I watched my father place weighing papers on each side, adjust the bar until the sides balanced, then tap paper from an apothecary jar. Sometimes it was crystalline granules, sometimes more powdery, or it could have been black and gooey like ichthymol. I saw him finesse the spatula, remove a smidge, add back a half smidge. On the other side, he placed weights, grains, and scruples. The apothecary system before metric was still in use. It was a vestige from ancient times when pharmacists were sorcerers, bark and berry pickers, shamans, and alchemists, when potions bubbled in smoky cauldrons, eye of newt, feather of finch. When he opened any jar, a breath of the old world escaped. Flowers of sulfur bloomed, ammonia mingled with camphor, aloe with fennel. There were leaves macerating, volatile oils in the air. They would cling to his smock and his pores. I inhaled a lungful, and it is lodged in my memory vault, safe from this deodorized world. My father weighed and measured everything, and not only when he presided between globes of colored water. He calculated benefits of doing against risk of refusing, as if the scale was there in front of him. I don't know if that deliberation was an extension of his pharmacy or if he brought it in with him. In his quiet passion, he ground Nazis into dust with his pestle. He carried immiscible voices inside himself, vehemence and containment, unsayable curses and hummed songs. With an enormous silence, he balanced the scale. There was an incoherent complaint addressed to the world, bellowing from my mother, which he swallowed. He converted it to a hidden fist against racism and the ruling class, yet he could neither overthrow the government or my mother. The effect to keep the scale at equipoise was his special grace. The air he gave off was equal parts resignation and the assertion of a low decibel rage with competing vapors from elixirs and fluid extracts. It was as if fetid rhizomes and pungent roots were vying against odoriferous buds and intoxicating herbs, having reached some conciliation. That indefinable drugstore smell may be the exhalation of natural forces, dank, serpentine roots that live unseen in deep soil, cut, dried, and triturated with sun-soaked tendrils, ever climbing and their stored breath released. The full measure of the man was the scale of social justice he carried. When the FBI knocked at our door, he stood steadfast and closed-mouthed as they asked for names. They knew about our subscription to left-wing magazines. He refused them, and that silence was his spine. This one is sort of about movies. I guess I must have written this when the Golden Globes happened.
Norm, can you talk into the... Yeah, okay. Speak a little closer to the mic.
Oh my! I never expected this. I'm totally unprepared. Can I borrow your speech, Merrill? Or yours, Bradley? The one crumpled up in your pocket? Thank you, Hollywood Foreign Press, whoever you are. And I want to thank Horace, Morris, and Doris, and also Sherman and Herman. And I thank you, too, for the gaffer and grip, whatever it is that they do, and to the caterer and my agent, who never gave up on me, even if I gave up on him, and to my fifth-grade teacher, who let me play Miles Standish in the school Thanksgiving play, rather than the turkey. I also want to thank my speech therapist who got me over my lisp and stuttering and overcame my Brooklyn accent, even though I was raised in Queens. I should also apologize to my brother for being born and thereby having him lose his privileges of an only child. Apologies also to my mother for not eating the liver you burnt. And you also said I was a good-for-nothing kid. And I want to take this opportunity to ask forgiveness from the library for all my overdue books, and to the post office for once reusing an uncanceled stamp, and to the Department of Motor Vehicles for the full stops I didn't come to. I'd also like to give a special thanks to the woman online who let me check out in front of her with my one item, and to that man who orders the lettuce, and the guy who collects shopping carts in the parking lot, even when the temperature dips below 60. I might also take this occasion to publicly rebuke my dentist for all those inane remarks he made while my mouth was full of cotton and clamps and I could only grunt and spit. I'm so nervous in front of you, my peers, who know deep down, let's be honest, I really don't belong up here. And I almost didn't bother to come, but I was in the neighborhood anyway. Just think, I almost didn't answer that ad for extras in that C.B. DeMille epic where I got my start, and then went on to play dead bodies under a sheet. But I knew someday I would rise to be vertical. Yes, the music is playing and they want me to yank me off the stage, but there must be someone I forgot to mention. Special kisses to Boris, Dolores, my twin grandchildren. It'd be better without these. Who are probably watching, even though I told them not to stay up late for Granddaddy, but they are 27 after all. And most of all, kisses to my trophy wife, without whom I would still be living in a cold water flat in some 1930s film starring Betty Davis, or laying low in Jersey till the heat's off and they corner me in an abandoned warehouse on the other side of town and send me up the river for packing a rod, taking the rap for George Raft, while Ida Lupino promises to wait for me till I'm up for parole in 11 years. Okay, that's that. This is a political.
Get closer to the mic.
Oh, Jesus.
There you go. People want to hear you.
It's like an MRI.
Not at
all. Presidential bid. 5:20 a.m. and I hear the voices of the Lord saying, "Go forth." So I get up and pee, but that isn't it. The sound is either a calling for public office or a garbage truck backing up. I decided I'm being summoned to throw my hat in the ring. Why not, with all the knuckleheads already declaring themselves? The country is suffering from electile dysfunction. We are faced with Rand, Rick, Mike, Mark, Lindsay, Carly, Bobby, Jeb, and God forbid Ted, to name a few, already lined up, just left of Louis XVI. Hillary hasn't learned how to fake authenticity as well as her husband yet. They're all mentioning income inequality and saying, "There are the poor and the filthy rich." I know, I'm one of them. If elected, I'll think of something. None address the systemic changes that need to happen, like the gerrymandered House or an obsolete Senate where 18% of the population controls the votes. So I sense a space for myself on the spectrum. After all, Elizabeth is sitting this one out and McGovern is still dead. The alternative is to learn Canadian as a second language. But then I remembered Bernie Sanders has declared, so I'd best just tend my own garden and send him a modest check. Since my favorite mailbox has been hauled away, I'm forced to walk 3 blocks, and it's uphill both ways. But that runs the risk of establishing a healthy habit. So now I drive there, only to be confronted by 4 corners of red curbs. They're coming. No stopping. I'm about to drop my envelope in the box when a police car pulls up. I'm thinking I must have made a wrong turn and ended up in Ferguson, Missouri, or Baltimore. But the cop flunked out of temper management class. However, this officer approaches with a benign face and instructions to whisk me off to the airport. I'm imagining some weeks of enhanced interrogation in Greenland, but no. I'm needed at once for a White House conference to solve the Middle East muddle. The meeting took place in a secured room 3 floors below the basketball court. I told the POTUS that we must disengage ourselves from the bad good guys and the good bad guys. Then bring the legions home, send the combatants to be genetically modified. It works for tomatoes. And have a nice day, since we no longer need them back, need their black stuff under the sand. And then our Bible-thumping evangelist fundamentalists can meet their Koran-thumping Wahhabi ISIS fundamentalist cousins, and they could agree at least about Abraham, maybe have a food fight, and probably never know how irrelevant they really are. For my services, I only asked that the next executive order mandate all mailboxes allow for 10-second parking. Okay, here is a sports thing, not too esoteric, I hope. This I must have written around the time of the Sochi Winter Games in Russia. It's called Shalom, Slalom, and Lots of Lutz. Imagine whizzing down your favorite icy freeway at 80 miles an hour with speed bumps and mandatory lane changes. Don't try it without a note from your mother. You must have bravado, strength, agility, and a touch of a death wish just to feel alive, or more alive than the rest of us mere mortals. So it goes with giant slaloms and moguls. Is it Mount Olympus they are racing down after consorting with the gods? Maybe they passed Sisyphus on his way up. It looks like life and death to me, but not to Norwegians or alpine skiers, who probably regard the steepest slope as little more than a hill of beans. As for the Lutz, it involves reaching back, vaulting, and restarting, but on the outside rather than the inside of the skate. A trained eye is alert to a mere flip, which cheats by turning on the inside of the skate. This has become known as the flutz. I now know more than I did 12 seconds ago. Being a world-class klutz, I can't imagine a lutz. But I honor and respect all the athletes from 80 countries, every one of them doing things I'd never tried, from skiers to skaters to sledders, even the 3-time losers who give mortality the finger at 96 miles an hour. The Winter Olympics is both a coming together and a coming apart, a gathering of nations with goodwill and friendship, and a fierce exercise in nationalism. Better to compete than blow each other up. The opening ceremony was both buoyant and flamboyant. Rasputin strutted his stuff with a pageant of Russian history and cultural heritage. Of course, we got the whitewashed, Disneyfied version, minus serfs, pogroms, purges, gulags, Stalin or Lenin, but that's all right. We couldn't expect any better from the Texas School Board's redacted version of American history. Putin was hardly recognizable with his shirt on. I almost expected him to jump out of the stands bare-chested and wrestle a Siberian tiger. The nicety stopped when the competition started. From where I sit, transfixed on the couch, watching the human body extend itself, twisting, speeding, soaring beyond the imaginable, everyone looks like a perfect 10. I don't want to hear about the ice dancer who performed with grace and verve, but her twizzle fizzled while I'm still having my razzle dazzle. This is sort of one of those uncategorizable imaginings. Call it gibbous thoughts from a lunatic moon. Your planet looks so calm from up here, so blue, dotted with clumps of land that look like they used to fit together. Of all the gin joints in the galaxy, the creatures that roam your orb must be celebrating day and night, but I hear otherwise. And here I am in this crated hunk of celestial debris. I don't mean to complain, particularly with all the green cheese I could ever ask for. Then we have that cow jumping over nightly while we dance by the light of. Consigned as we are out here to mere satellite status, we laugh at you earthlings for all those songs written about us. Frankly, we're tired of it. Can we help it for being over-rhymed with June, spoon, swoon, and lagoon? I'll see your Looney Tunes and raise you a dearth, worth, girth, and Colin Firth. You've had your fun with us. Don't think we are ungrateful, being a sonata or a serenade. But we are not a paper moon, and we have no moon river. We moon dwellers used to resent being associated with lunacy. However, after observing your earthly shenanigans, we think you are the ones ready for the loony bin. We are modest folk out here, but assert our pull and pleased to set your calendar. We have a man in the moon, happily married, thank you. Together, they see to it that your ocean tides are raised on schedule, even if we go into near-vanishing mode in daylight. Mostly we are nocturnal prowlers, patrolling the night sky, occasionally answering the howl of a wolf. Why we appear full to you in spooky movies is your problem. If I had my way, we'd be a crescent reclining all the time. Though we possess little, it is also my favorite apostrophe. My advice is for you folks to visit us more often. We enjoyed your small step for man. You're long overdue for that giant step for mankind. Stop abusing yourself like a wrecking ball. Get a grip or a gossamer thread to steady yourself. It seems from up here that your dish ran away with your spoon. I fear if you go, we go with you. This will be my last. This is a poem, of all things, written for Peggy, for us. In a way, I realize that it sort of chronicles our time together from what we call BMI, before moving in, to now. It's called We. I gave her a scroll in the bark of eucalyptus. She gifted me a nest in the stump of an oak. I offered her reptilian roots of a ficus. She called, "Quick, catch the sun, hemorrhage into the Pacific." We gave each other the same book by Wendell Berry. I led her to the rush of white water. She took me to its silence. I found fallen leaves swimming like fish. She heard a song in the grove of flowering acacia. I promised gladly to be her mother, brother, father, lover. I gave her the joy of driving off the map. She took me to a safe unknown. I pointed her to white horses that were llamas. She led me to the forest of Dean where we peed. Together we were Hanseled and Greteled. When I showed her the wind-pocked rock, she found an answering elm in the reflecting pond. We saw petals fall over a footbridge in Kyoto, though we've never been to Japan. We listened for the clarinet concerto in an estuary of migratory wings. I led her to the breaking news on the radio. She showed me a portal to the realm of nocturnes. We traveled to Ketchikan with its totems, then found our own creation myth in how we were born together. Together we died on Oxford Street, rolling off a bus, and died again on a wet road in the Dordogne. Were lifted as the tides rose in the Bay of Fundy. We are old together in the albums of our bones, and young as the morning squiggles on the blank page.
The poems of Peggy Aylsworth always contain the unexpected and pull us in with their abundance of generosity. She sets her imagination free, often making wild leaps, inspired by a wide range of topics from photographs to the day's news to string theory and the rings of Saturn. A constant is a delight in the world, human-made and natural, in art in all its forms, and in relationships. The sacred is made of all these things. as she wrote in a poem aptly called Hymn on Sunday. The mind and heart alone deserve a front row seat on opening night. And later in the same poem, I leap and lope through words that reach the portal of your ear, another organ to applaud the concert. I bless these feet that walk me through the snow. All of us could say we are blessed by Peggy's presence in our lives and for her poetry.
Okay, now I can thank you again. Yes, I really thank you all for coming. I'm delighted to see all of you and surprised to see many of you. And of course, I too want to thank Judy Raffel for allowing us to use this lovely facility, as well as to thank her for the wonderful photograph that I use on the cover of my book that was also augmented by Len Lipman. So, with that, we'll get to the poetry. This poem, by the way, I cannot follow my husband's incredible performance, so don't expect it.
I know she does, but she needs both.
Okay.
It's okay. It's the microphone.
This poem is an attempt to show how the spirit is found in ordinary things. It's called Waking the Morning. Into the layers of an ordinary morning, a bowl of Rice Krispies stares me down. Blue bubbles deliver unction to my skin. Why did I choose an orange blouse? At the market, bananas have a come-hither look. On aisle 7, a baby offers me his blessing. Patient, I wait online for the second coming. My cell phone calls me to make sure I do my early penance, its memory far greater than my own. Letters in my mailbox plead for alms. If it's Thursday, the morning will exaggerate itself, the chosen one. There are limitless explanations for what we do. None of them are quite true. This poem was inspired by a photograph by our hostess, Judy Raffel. It's called High as an Urge. Bodies in motion, defying gravity. They are two made one in their acrobatic high wire stunt, stilled forever as the shutter snaps. This envy of birds, tell me I'm not sewn to earth, tied to the load. Let me swoop, ride with the air to deliverance without drugs or drink. Up, that tiny word signifying something beyond the sound and fury, a reach to cruise among the vapor trails, sing along with the angels. In this urge, this steeple of the mind, I need no wings, no helium balloons. With Mozart's clarinet glissando, I ride the sun. Well, this poem deals with nature and with aging, for obvious reasons. Nests and other necessities. This bird, black with a startle of red, hidden until he is in flight, forms a nest for her. His beak has intelligence built in, knotting the dry stalks to firm the bag-like house. Risk, the bird knows, plays against the wish for security. My son, at 60, learns that money isn't money unless it keeps the roof from leaking, a temporary lid at best. He reminds me I am 90. What do I feel? Why do I feel 35? Might as well try making sense of today's popular songs their lyrics either a whisper or a garbled shout. They destroy my illusion, forcing me to admit my age. And here on nature, these tiny builders, prairie dogs, ants, swiftlets, gluing straw with their saliva. Beats me why it's so hard to pay the rent or realize space is not the nothingness our limited eyes believe. And here's a poem from which Carol did a little quote. It's called Hymn on Sunday. Who could believe the red blood truth of this human body? The mind and heart alone deserve a front row seat on opening night. I drink a glass of water. It swims into a poem read by arteries and ducts more prepared for proof than the beleaguered editors of the Times. Think bones, broken or aged. They hold their own throughout, structuring the house of many rooms. What medicine is there as wise as the body's own repair? Have you of late considered the iris of the human eye? If I racket the air with sounds, my purple tongue has much to answer for. I leap and lope through words that reach the portal of your ear. Another organ to applaud the concert. I bless these feet that walk me through the snow. Water here. Thank you. Okay. Oops. This one is called Temporary and Now. Discard has a melancholy sound as rust sets in, even the graffiti, too much like weeds, into the junkyard in favor of bluer skies. Make it new, said Pound, quoting a Chinese emperor. New clothes, new car, new rings and things, new lover, new and better toothpaste. Alas, the glitter and the glitz is merely landscape trying for a magical view to stave off. And yet the coral trees come round again, not new, but out of their sameness, inscape bursting through the blossoms. Well, let's see. Oh, yeah. We say foreign, but nothing is truly foreign. Light in the shape of a bird. Pink flamingos with the mind of Uberman. They speak in tongues more eloquent than Heraclitus. What is one to think of birds in a lush green setting, railing at the comedy of critical comparison? A woman solves the problem of some atomic waste, drives a Lamborghini. She flies to Mogadishu in a private jet for a boring conference and escapes the sneers of jealous colleagues. Another woman in the mountains of Albania serves biryani to her husband and their 7 sons. Tired of listening to her neighbor's gossip, she walks a mile to market, glad of the open air. Wide and narrow, simple and complex, the birds refuse the trap of choice, their spindly legs firm on the marshy ground, long necks to catch the current of the wind. This poem is again based on a photo by Judy. It's called Long Night City. Darkness lingers around the edges as lamplight picks its way over rounded forms, a red stop sign barely visible. He stands beside his cart, heaped with his world. His life is silhouetted, a homeless shift, and he a darkness, waiting for the next. The stairway, looking up, will not accommodate or lift his load. These are days and nights of lonely ground. Here, among the litter canisters, he thinks of waste, how the years of labor ended. What was built collapsed. Sad but true. Well, this is sort of about taking responsibility. It's called Mea Culpa Includes, and there's a superscription, You Will Not Escape. That's by Goya. Though I'm my own original, a woman with the moon deep in my bones, I'm as much myself in you and you, carried in the eye of the sun, even in the shameful shadows. An American soldier kills 11 villagers. Can I play innocent among the asphodels? In the pit of me, I step into the blood, the doorless massacre, the man as lion, charging from the fury of his gut, carry some portion of my hand, turned black, my mouth too full of cherries. Well, my husband read about me, and this is my love poem to him. It's called On Supreme Particulars. Again and again, without intermission, your eye, your ear, your hand make yes an unembroidered silk. They bring a new vocabulary, deeper than sound, more lasting than memory. You are the door to my beginnings, waking my day with zigzag waves of jazz, of Rachmaninoff arpeggios, on a theme by all who cream and dream romantic harmonies. You give the world more than it deserves, as it prays on bony, bended knees. You celebrate the home run hitter, art of Kunitz, Dunn, and Doobie, while you blog a native wit through substance that prevails. Okay, this is the last poem, and it's the title poem of the book. It's called Ever After. A breakfast concert of Vivaldi variations. Through the window, in early April, crimson blossom on the coral tree. It's Easter morning, reminding even non-believers, I am one, that resurrection calls the spirit not to bend or doven or to crouch, but rise, unleavened by the gods, in beatitude, in homage to the atom. Glory be to particles. Left to their own devices, they meander, forming bone and flesh, the harvest mind, the orange moon, the poetry of weather and the stars. Thank you.